Welcome to HeadKrack After Hours. It has been far too long, man. We have a very, very dope guest joining us today who refers to himself as a psychedelic concierge. That is a fancy title if I've ever heard one. Big ups to my man, Mike Zappy Zapolin. What's going on, my brother?
Hey, loving being here. Feel free to call me Zappy. There's too many mics out there at this point. So I'm just going with Zappy, and I'm on the road here in Miami, just doing whatever kind of advocating I can do.
Well, yo, you're doing fantastic work. And speaking of being on the road, my manager got to bounce in a second, and she was the one who told me all about you. And I know she had a couple questions before she got a dip. Go ahead, fire one off real quick.
So one of my questions has to do with psychosis and a lot of conversation around ayahuasca or conversation around psychedelics overall, and the fear of not knowing underlying mental health issues. So there's a lot of positive conversation of how this is healing. What percentage of people have the opposite, where psychosis or where psychosis creeps up?
Right. That's a good question. The good news is it's an extremely small percentage. I know it's the fear because people have been, kind of by the, pharmaceutical companies and the government have been told people, everybody, this is your brain on drugs. Like whatever you do, you're going to jump out of a building. You're going to think you're a tea kettle, all this crazy stuff. But in reality, in my career in the last 10 15 years of working with the medicine and being involved with hundreds of people, watching and being there around hundreds and hundreds of people, I've never seen anybody in the right set and setting have a really super negative experience. Sometimes it can be pretty intense and emotional, and sometimes you're looking at something in your life from a third party perspective, depending what it is. But overall, millions of people, for example, have done mushrooms, and I would bet you can only count on your, hands and feet, people who've had any kind of a really serious situation. But I think like the most important thing is to know what you need and to be with somebody who's going to be able to put you in the right headspace and put you in the right environment where you're going to have a good experience no matter what. That's why set and setting, that, the mindset and the setting you're in, it's super important. A lot of people, when you hear about somebody having a bad experience, they, go to a concert or something, and then they take something, they don't even know what it is. And then all of a sudden there's like 10,000 people around them and they're freaking out. And I think that that's just like, kind of what we have to do now. The psychenauts and the people who've done these things before, we have to be the people who kind of guide everybody and kind of show them the right way. Because, for example, mushrooms, it's like you could eat your body weight in mushrooms and you still wouldn't die. So it's like these things are so benign that it's really just finding the one that's right for you and the one that's, really going to do what it is that you're trying to do. And I think I'm really hoping that my Lamar Odom documentary called Reborn can kind of take some of the stigma away, because Lamar, he always been told in his, African-American community that, stay away from psychedelics, you'll go crazy, the cops can shoot you, you can be put in a mental institution. And he was just like, whatever, always been told, don't do this, it's dangerous. And then, when he did ketamine in a doctor's office, controlled environment, being guided, he had a great experience. When he went down to Mexico and sat with a doctor and a guide to do ibogaine, even though it's the most intense psychedelic there is, he still had a great experience because he was being guided, right? And I think, our job now is to, hopefully through Lamar and other celebrities and people, to kind of bring the stigma down, because I do know that that is in everybody's mind someplace, like, oh man, should I be scared? And, the reality is, when you take an antidepressant, which a lot of people are doing right now, that's staying in your body all the time, building up and changing your brain chemistry. Ketamine, it's out of your body within hours. Things like psilocybin and things, they're out within, several hours or a day. So it's like we should be way more scared about the medications that are being given out by doctors and pharmaceutical companies. They're much more dangerous than the things that we're talking about right now here.
Absolutely, yo. You put that so amazingly well. And I had a chance to check out some of your documentaries, man, and starting with The Reality of Truth, which was so amazing because I was talking to my manager and I was telling her like a lot of things that you talked about in that documentary, I also experienced as well. Like there was a lot of like, checkpoints. So let's start with, what is a psychenaut and how did the medicine find you?
Ooh, that's a good question. For me, an astronaut goes and explores outer space, and a psychenaut explores inner space. And I was really lucky when I was young. I had a really good psychedelic experience. My first time, I did it with people who knew what they were doing, and they guided me, and I felt really safe. And, it turned out it was an incredible experience that I'll describe, which is just briefly that, I looked at my hand and I could see that it was, trillions of atoms, and they were just vibrating at this certain frequency. And I looked over at my friend, and he was the exact same atoms, but they were just vibrating at a little bit different frequency. Okay. And then I looked at the table, and that was the same exact atoms, but different frequency. And I was like, oh my God, like everything's frequency. I can never unsee this again, So when I get in an intense moment or whatever, and I just want to kind of clear myself, I go, okay, wait a minute. My five senses are muting everything down to what I can deal with, but there's really a bigger picture here. And I kind of close my eyes and I have that representation of frequency. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? There's a lot more going on. I'm not going to pretend I know what's up, And so what happened was I had that experience. I had a few more experiences like that were very positive. And then when I was about 12 years ago, I found myself in this spiritual midlife crisis, where I was all of a sudden I did everything society told me I needed to do to be totally fulfilled and happy, have a family, get a job, make money, all that stuff. You're going to be totally happy. And I was sitting there like, okay, wait, but like, having some happiness, but I don't even know who I am right now. And I don't know what this whole thing's about. I think I got to go figure it out. And I came up with the thought that I should go down to the jungle and sit with a shaman, somebody very authentic that, knows what they're doing with plant medicine. And I went on down there, and I was lucky enough to get actress Michelle Rodriguez to come with me and some friends. And so, it turned it into like something that we could share after the fact, which almost like while I was going through it, I was like, well, the fact that I'm sharing this, hopefully this is going to make me have like a really good experience. Because a lot of times, whatever your intent is, that's, what you're going to get out of any experience. So I just wanted to go in there really clean and say, hey, I just want to expand my consciousness. I don't want an answer. I don't want to know what I'm supposed to do. I just want to expand my consciousness. And I went into it like that. And I just, had a fantastic experience that's changed my life ever since that day. I was like, okay, I gotta, be an advocate for helping other people find this, because it's so important in life to like, what's the point of living if you don't even know why you're doing it? So I felt like, maybe if I could share some of that, it would be good for other folks too.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful thing, Zappy, also considering the fact that you can talk to 20, 30 people who have all took the medicine in the form of ayahuasca, and they'll tell you 20 to 30 different stories as to what their journey was. And the crazy thing, the thing that made the hair on my arm stand up, Zappy, was when you was telling a story about how you asked whatever energy or force that was, why do bad things happen? What is this all about? And it took you way out into the farthest reaches of the galaxy and just, hey, gotta balance it. It's all balanced, right? And yeah. I had that. So did you only ask that one question?
That's a great question. I actually asked another question where I was like shown something after that was even kind of more profound than that, which like changed my life. And I'm excited to hear your story. I love hearing everybody's stories, because some elements are kind of similar, and then other elements are like knowledge that you need specifically or something in your life, and the medicine's always going to give you what it is you need. And so you know, in that moment that I was sitting out there on the edge of the universe and I was like looking at everything contained, I heard this spirit voice speak to me for the first time. You know, I felt it was always some spirit, like, you know, Mother Nature, Pachamama was there with me, kind of, you know, guiding me a little bit. But finally, the voice spoke to me in that moment that you described. It's in the reality of truth. But after that, I was sitting there, and voice said to me, I interpreted it to be God, you know, a feminine aspect of God that was speaking to me. And it said, do you know how you're breathing right now? It said to me, and I thought about it, and I was like, no, I don't know how I'm breathing. And then it said, do you know how you're growing your hair? You're doing it, but do you know how? And I was like, no. And then it said, well, if you don't know how you're breathing, what makes you think I need your help? And I was like, wow, oh, wow. Like, yeah, if I don't breathe for 2 minutes, I die. But like, holy shit, if I don't know that, how do I know anything? So like, I'm not going to get all upset anymore when people aren't listening to me, or people are, you know, doing, you know, things I don't agree with, like whatever. I don't even know how I'm breathing. How am I supposed to get all caught up in all that, you know? So it was like a freeing moment for me to realize that if I don't know the most basic thing about myself, then I have to live in that, you know. And this entity, after it said that, it said, just enjoy it, you know. And I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to enjoy it, you know. And I just, you know, I think it's amazing. I just, you know, love to, you know, hear the wisdom that people get from their different journeys, because like I said, that's what I needed. And there was, you know, 10 or 12 other people, and they all got what they needed, you know. And you saw in the reality of truth, Michelle Rodriguez, you know, she had this moment where 10 or 20 years of heavy pain was lifted off her shoulders. And without going to therapy or anything, she got what she needed, you know, that the medicine, that the shaman said, you know, this pain that you're feeling, it's not yours. Let it go. And she just like let it go. And her whole life kind of flipped in that moment. And then lastly, I'll say that, you know, Michelle told me after that, she said, you know, after our ayahuasca and our San Pedro, she said, when I go back to the States, she said, I feel really confident right now. And I think I'm going to go back and I'm going to join the writing team on the Fast and Furious. She's like, I never really had the confidence to do it before. I always kind of felt like I was an actress, and, you know, they invited me, but I didn't feel like I was bringing something of value. And she's like, now I know I could bring some things of value. I want to, you know, make the women in that franchise, you know, stand out more and have a bigger role. And I was like, wow, like, you know, to see somebody get that right in that moment too. It's just, you know, it's one of the best things I love most about plant medicine is the transformations happen like that. It's not like, you know, a diet program. You got to do it for, you know, work 6 months a year, you know. This is like, boom, you got it right there. It's right there for you in that moment.
No, it's beautiful, man. Like, you know, for me, you know, when I had my first encounter with the energy, you know, and I felt like I was talking to God, and also like similar to you, how you felt like it was more of a feminine energy than a male energy, which we've always been taught to understand or think that God was. It felt very feminine to me, but not, you know, definitely not definitively male, but I kind of got like a 3 wishes kind of scenario. Like, hey, ask me 3 things, you know?
Wow.
And I was dealing still with the loss of my mother. And it still to this day, you know, bothers me, but it helped me understand that death is the most beautiful thing you will ever experience. And we are afraid of death so much, but you know, this is the pregame that we're doing right now. Like the real show is when you are free and you're you know, and your energy is serving the universe. So knowing that my mother felt nothing but the most beautiful thing in the world that she transcended, it made it okay for me. You know what I'm saying? At a time where it still wasn't okay because I wasn't okay. And then I also asked what it felt like for my grandmother, to transition. And I felt the shocks of the medics, trying to bring her back. But she was
Wow.
good. She was good. And it's us that are
Nice.
here suffering. You know what I mean? At the end of the
Yeah.
day. And then the third one, because I'm a hip hop head for whatever reason, I wanted to know what it felt like when Notorious B.I.G. died. And
Wow.
he was at peace. He was tired and he
Nice.
was at peace when everything
Wow.
happened. And even like during that time too, like, you talk about frequencies. I'm hearing people talk in the house because we did the ceremony at a house here in the States, and
Yep.
it's not English. It's they're talking in that, like, my brain had flipped to a different frequency. And everything
Wow.
that everybody was saying around was no longer in English for like a long period, for probably about a good hour. And
Wow.
then I had a really
Interesting.
weird experience, like looking in a mirror. I was watching my, like, my appearance change. It was really mind-blowing stuff. And I felt that, okay, I'm good. I don't need to know anything else. But then we did a ceremony the next day, and then a ceremony the next day, and it was some more unlocking that needed to be done. So far, I've gone on 3 retreats, and I participated in 8 ceremonies, and I can't wait to go on
Wow.
another one because I'm
Beautiful.
I'm yearning
Yeah,
I'm
no,
yearning to learn more.
yeah, I mean, people always say, well, if you did the plant medicine, like, why do you need to do it again? Didn't it show you? And it's like, it's like a layers of an onion, It's like as soon as you reveal the next level, now you're like, you're tuned into another frequency, and then you want to peel another layer and get deeper and deeper. And I think, that's kind of an important way to look at it is, what is it you need? And as a psychedelic concierge, my job is, kind of like a concierge at a hotel. You go up to them and you go, hey, where should we go to dinner tonight? And they say, well, what kind of food do you like? Do you like music? Do you want some wine, indoor, outdoor? You tell them all those things, and then they make a recommendation. So as a psychedelic concierge, I'm asking people, what's your intent for doing this? What are your traumas that you're looking to overcome? And then based on that, I'm going to make some kind of a recommendation based on what you need. And so, ayahuasca, if you need the feminine hug from the grandmother, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you are out of touch with nature, maybe you need some San Pedro cactus. If you, are lacking joy, maybe you need some psilocybin microdose. So it's like a real, just to the person what they need. And then, like in the Lamar movie, I came up with a formula for him. And that formula was ketamine plus plant medicine plus a daily practice like meditation or breathing equals a conscious transformation. So it wasn't like one thing, because it's like, I had to get him comfortable with going inside. He had to, understand that how much benefit there was in that. Then he had to go really deep. And then I knew that he needed some kind of a practice, to bring him back to that kind of present moment awareness state that you get put in, where all the chatter goes away and you're just like there in the present moment. I knew that he would want to connect to that after, the ceremony and all that stuff. And that's an easy way to do it, is through the meditation or breathing, where you close your eyes, you start going in there, and it's almost like you've got this pathway, marked for you to take a deep dive down now. And I think for me, that's, the exciting part about plant medicine, is because I'd love to have everybody just meditate or do breathing and not even need this stuff. But in the reality we're living in, the society with all this technology and noise and media information, it's like you're overwhelmed.
Right.
And you really need something, a tool that's going to like quiet your mind, or, put you in a third party perspective. So I think these are really important. I think, thousands of years ago, you probably wouldn't have needed this. You could have just sat down in nature and transcended in that way. But now I don't even think our brains are, meant to handle this level of technology and information that we're receiving right now. It's very intense.
I feel like we're overworking at all times, even when we're not working. And you